DNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint, where power and politics collide and the tough questions get asked and answered.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. If you have been to the hospital recently, you know the sticker shock. You get the bill and you see a list of confusing and costly charges. That's even if you do have good insurance. Well, the state treasurer is now on a mission to change that. Joining us now, North Carolina State Treasurer Dale Folwell. Mr. Treasurer, thanks for coming on Flashpoint once again.
It's great to be with you.
All right, so you have referred to hospitals as healthcare cartel. I'm sure you didn't make too many friends with that description. Explain what your quest is here to try to make pricing a little more transparent. Anybody who's been to a hospital anytime recently know how expensive it can be, even with insurance. What are you trying to do here?
Simply put, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get rid of secret pricing so that the majority of North Carolinians, and especially those that teach, protect, and otherwise serve, who are on the state health plan, can figure out when they have to consume health care, what it costs. As your viewers know from my visits in the past, as the state treasurer of North Carolina, when I attempted to find out what we're paying for health care in this state on behalf of those that teach, protect, and serve, this is what was returned to me as the master charge list. Every single page was redacted. And the fact is that we have so many of our citizens who will never be able to see themselves way out of poverty because of things having to do with healthcare billing.
And this is sort of become personal for you because as a treasurer, you're sort of in charge of state health insurance plans, 750,000 employees. And so you have a vested interest as being our treasurer, being a good steward of our taxpayer money to see these prices come down. But of course, it impacts everybody, state employees or not.
Well, it definitely impacts everybody. And, you know, former treasurer Harlan Bowles, who wore this very lapel pin, talked about this 4 decades ago. State Auditor Beth Wood talked about this 14 years ago. Bill Gates 12 years ago, Warren Buffett 4 years ago, and even Senator Elizabeth Warren talks about the fact that rising healthcare costs and things associated with medical billing are the leading causes of bankruptcy in the United States, and I suspect that's also applies to North Carolina. And, you know, when I said earlier, a lot of people can't see themselves out of poverty because of things dealing with health care. Healthcare owns North Carolina now, and Wall Street owns healthcare. And, you know, for most of our lives, we've often heard the term at making ends meet. Ends will never meet as long as people have to consume a product that they'd rather not consume, where no one will tell them what it costs. And then when they don't pay for something that no one would tell them what it costs, then they have the potential of having their credit rating destroyed. The other thing I'd like to say is that you can't talk about a bread line unless you've actually stood in a bread line. Last fall, I had a procedure that took 8 minutes that cost $6,000. It was an image. And this is going on all across North Carolina. And I've personally put myself in collections on this particular bill. And because, as I said earlier, you can't talk about what it's like to be in a bread line until you've actually stood in one. And so what I'm drilling down now as a consumer is trying to figure out, you know, to what extent people will go to get these medical bills collected. And this is even complicated more by the fact that these are multi-billion-dollar corporations who disguise themselves as nonprofits, who don't pay income tax, sales tax, or property taxes. And the reason they get these billions and billions of dollars of tax exemption is because they're supposed to be offering charity care. And whether it's the report that our state health plan partnered with Johns Hopkins University 5 weeks ago, or the latest one from Rice University, it shows that there's a huge gap between the amount of charity care that these multi-billion-dollar corporations are offering versus what they're supposed to be offering. And then on top of that, there's the potential of $175 million worth of medical debt in North Carolina, where people should have been entitled to the charity care, but were not offered. The fact is that these charity care, nobody is holding anybody accountable or responsible for the charity care. And I'm the keeper of the public purse, but in addition to that, I'm having to protect the consumer, especially those involved in the state health plan.
You are one man. Granted, you are a powerful man. You're the state treasurer, but you're one man. What can you do about this? What is your strategy here to tackle this?
Well, the strategy is, and you know, it's ironic. I'm a lot older than you are, but if you lived like I did during the '60s, you would know that, you know, the positive changes that evolved in the '60s were not as a result of lawmakers, because when I use the word cartel, cartels are associations which are formed to restrict competition and raise prices. They have power everywhere. They control the supply of health care, they control the access to health care, and they control the price of health care. Both the previous president and the current president of the United States have issued and strengthened executive orders to make so that these healthcare prices are more transparent. But even in a recent report in the Wall Street Journal, even Google and Apple could not figure out what healthcare costs are. My point of telling you that is that people are no longer going to tolerate, no longer going to be punished, no longer going to be discriminated against because of what's happening with healthcare costs. Not only what's happening to them, but the fact that they may be charged a much different price than someone who goes in for the exact same procedure. So the public is keenly aware of exactly what's going on there. And so we're starting to write the music that will ultimately change the behavior of these cartel-like activities.
It strikes me there's a different dynamic. You've got urban hospitals like Atrium here in Charlotte and Navant that do very, very well. But then you have rural hospitals you hear about closing down. What's the difference as you see it?
There's no one who has closed down more rural hospitals in the last 20 years than these big cartel-like hospitals in these urban centers. And we have new information that we're developing right now that talks about the rope-a-dope, so to speak, associated with rural hospitals. Having high-quality, independent, profitable, accessible rural hospitals is highly important. That's why, as the state treasurer through the state health plan 3 years ago, we exalted primary care physicians by paying them more. We exalted mental health specialists by paying them more. It's why we have so many great partners like Tryon Medical in your very viewing area that are part of clear pricing. So the fact is that this is a multidimensional problem, but there's one thing that's absolutely certain. The consumers of this state continue to be punished. It is especially harmful to lower and fixed income individuals. And the fact is that this industry has spent 40 years building up this the secrecy associated with all this. And even when the previous president and the current president of the United States issued executive orders for them to stop their behavior, they still don't stop.
All right, Treasurer Dale Folwell. Mr. Treasurer, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And you can read these reports at nctreasurer.com. Just go to the press releases. You can actually click on the report from Johns Hopkins University as well as Rice University.
Always good to arm our viewers with more information. All right, Mr. Treasurer, thank you. By the way, we should say the North Carolina Healthcare Association, who Treasurer Folwell is taking on, has long wielded power in state politics and government. The association even endorsed his opponent in 2020. Cody Hand, the vice president for advocacy and policy at the association, told the assembly, "I don't care what Dale Folwell calls us in public," referring to the cartel comment. "He can do what he needs to do there. The offer is still on the table that we would like to work together to achieve a common goal." And I mean work together. I don't mean tell us what you're doing and we say yes. More Flashpoint after this.